When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to episode 7 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snelling's Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. Today, we have an amazing individual sitting with me. I first met him when we were teamed up as greeters at my church. Both of us felt called to serve, but we didn't have very much time, so we both opted for what both of us found to be one of the easier jobs, which is holding front doors open and saying hi to people, and we were really good at it. We've since become really good friends, and he has been a huge influence on my life, as well as just an amazing close brother and somebody that I wish everybody had in their lives. Welcome today, Marcus Brock, to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you, Scott. Such an honor to be here. You know, I've had the chance to watch a lot of the other podcasts and just so inspired by you. Not only what you're doing here, but just through our friendship, man. And so, honored to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about where you came from, how you grew up, all that good stuff.
Awesome. So I think maybe I'll start from who sits in front of you today. Husband to my beautiful wife, Corey, father of 2 daughters, going into 6th grade, so bracing ourselves for that, as well as 3rd grade. Reside here in the area locally and just love it. But, you know, before that, I grew up in East Texas, super small town, right outside of Tyler, Texas, Lindale, Texas, for those that might drive down I-20, headed east. And grew up in a family of missionaries. I was actually adopted when I was 2 from Haiti, and by a family of missionaries. And I moved to, of all places, small town East Texas, and grew up in a missionary home. You know, family always constantly went to church, and so just really had rooted in faith, which was really cool and big in my life where I am today. Older brother, older sister, younger sister, just a big family. So always around family, which we love. And went to middle school there, went to high school in Lindale, and then eventually ventured out, went to college in Fort Worth at Go Frogs, where my wife and I both are proud TCU Horned Frogs. Met her day one, actually, and just friends. And probably the best decision I made was going to TCU to meet her. And she's a huge part of my life today. And you know, I now work in the healthcare industry. I lead sales for a digital health company based out of California, and just having a blast doing that as well.
All right, so in true Marcus Brock fashion, you left out all the fun stuff, all the ego strokers. So you didn't just go to TCU. You played football, and you didn't just play football. You were a captain.
I was, golly, super blessed, man. Always loved sports. Always had just an energy motor, and my parents guided me to sports. Football was really my love, and was fortunate to earn quite a few scholarship offers coming out of high school. In TCU, it was small. What they were doing at the time at the university was kind of in line with what I was trying to do, build something from not a lot of notoriety to hopefully being something national. And we had the great pleasure of kind of starting those building blocks to where it is today. Played wide receiver, returned punts and kicks, played under Coach Gary Patterson. He'll always be a Horned Frog in our hearts.
Sure.
For any Frog fans out there. But yeah, it was a blast. And you know what, being recognized as a captain by my peers was really, really cool and really meaningful for me. So loved that, loved everything about it, and ton of great stories behind that, which we've shared some of those before.
Yeah, those won't make them on the air. Those won't make them on the air. However, you also met your wife, Corey, there.
Yeah.
And y'all were friends, and I believe y'all had a class together, I think. Tell us about that.
Because you're such a good friend, man, I'll let you poke at me with that. We were friends, and it was funny. A buddy of mine and I met her. She led incoming freshman orientation in the summertime. And we came in early, get ready for football for the fall. And so we were there staying with some other upperclassmen. And so I met her and just kind of befriended one another, saw her on campus. And my sophomore year, we happened to have an elective together. And man, I love you, brother, if I'm going to tell this. But it was argumentation and debate. And I'm a psychology major, so I have no idea how I got into that class. But I did. And by the grace of God, she supported me and as a friend helped me study for things. But towards the end of the semester, I'll never forget it, we had to actually debate against one another. And it was a train wreck.
On your side.
On my side. And Corey, she has her law degree, and so she is quite good at arguing and debating, and I am not. I try to stay away with it from a 10-foot pole, but just ate me alive, man. And clearly could understand I had zero room to be standing next to her or the others in the room, and we laugh about it today. But the silver lining of it is just, one, I wasn't prepared, and it's stuck with me like my entire life. I'll never be unprepared, and I try to drive that to my daughters too and friends. Hey, if you can control anything, you can control preparation. Just be prepared when you show up. Other things you can't control, fine, but you can control your preparation. It just stuck with me. So that uncomfortable, ugly situation, which the professor did video record, by the way, has really stuck with me a long time in my life. So
I'm sure she has a copy of it too.
I hope not.
She's never pulled it out for you?
She hasn't. And, but if she wants to get at me, she probably will.
That's awesome. So it's interesting that you learned the preparation attribute from your then acquaintance and now wife.
Yeah.
In college. So leading up to that, had you never had one of those experiences where you had just been, completely undressed by somebody, either, on the football field because you weren't prepared, in the classroom because you weren't prepared, or in any other situation because you weren't prepared?
Yeah, it really was the first time. I athletically, things came naturally to me. So just in that realm, in a small town, you kind of allowed me to stand a little bit of shoulders ahead. Academically, no, never was a challenge there either. And so it really was, and you know me well enough, I tell you all the time, the one thing about me is I don't want to be uncomfortable for too long. And if I can somehow mitigate that on my own, I'm going to do it. And that really was the driving factor. Like that was the kind of the culmination of being unprepared and embarrassment hitting head to head.
Yeah, that's like a head-on train collision there from what it sounds like.
And it's just never really happened to me. And so that was a big moment in my life, honestly. As silly as it sounds, it really was.
That's fantastic. I kind of had a similar upbringing. I had cruised through life and, wasn't anything exceptional at school. I graduated top 10%, but no, huge scholarships anywhere or anything like that. But high school, it wasn't strenuous. I'll put it that way. I didn't take a whole lot of honors classes, basically just kind of what I allowed my parents to talk me into, just enough to get by and get into a good college and sick 'em Bears.
For another time.
Yeah, for another time. Well, we've had that debate before. We'll come back to it later. But yeah, I remember my very first year, so I don't know if I've told this story on here before or not, but I went into Baylor wanting to be a pre-med, right? I was going to be a doctor. And my first semester, I made all A's and a D. And D was in biology. So I was quickly told, Mr. Snellings, you will not be going off to medical school, not with a D in biology. So that was a real kind of game changer for me, right? I realized, wow, this whole life thing, you actually do have to work. You're going to hit that brick wall at some point,
absolutely.
Right? Whether it be in a relationship, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your faith or wherever, everybody's going to hit that brick wall. And it's kind of like, okay, well, when I get there, what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you had brought up earlier that you hate being uncomfortable. And if it was up to you, you would basically bail out of that uncomfortable situation as quickly as you can or do something to prevent it or make it better. What have you found in those situations where you're uncomfortable when you go ahead and push through? You don't bail out. Mm-hmm. You do what's necessary to push through.
It's a great question. I think I know for myself, Scott, it's finding comfort in the uncomfortable and having enough goal to not flee. Because if I can withstand it and find comfort, I might just be able to live and fight another day or another hour. And the more wins I'm able to string along with that little bit of comfort, one step forward, really allows me to find comfort there. And, for me today, it's now I'm almost seeking discomfort and finding how fast can I find comfort in that space, which pushes me, stretches me. We live in a world of comfort, and, a lot of people work so hard to find that comfort, and I think that's phenomenal. But I think also the Driven podcast, I'm driven to continue to grow. That's why I lean on great people like you to help push me into some of those areas. And so I think it's really finding that comfort zone and just taking one step after the other.
Yeah, I think I don't know of anyone who loves stepping into an uncomfortable situation, right? I mean, you've managed to create this mindset around it where, okay, going into this uncomfortable situation, yeah, it's not going to be very nice. It's going to suck for a little bit, but I'm going to figure out how to make it a little less uncomfortable by growing. Mm-hmm. And I think that mindset is a huge key, right? Because when we come up against that brick wall, when we come up against that discomfort, our natural inclination is to either stand there or back away and maybe go try to find another direction, even though we know to truly grow, we got to go deal with that brick wall.
Agreed.
And what I truly think separates the achievers from the people who just get kind of stuck is that first step, the step into the uncomfort, the discomfort. I told a story a couple episodes ago about climbing a telephone pole and having to go jump off, and I'm terrified of heights, right?
I have that picture on my phone.
Yeah. And I take that first step, like, okay, it's started, it's going on, I got to keep climbing. And so, all right, I can't quit until I at least take one more. And so I at least take one more. And I think if you have that mindset of, look, man, just take one more step. Mm-hmm. Just stick it out for one more day, one more hour, one more half hour. Then it's amazing. You kind of build this momentum. Mm-hmm. And then to your point, the more times you step into that uncomfortable, it never feels good. Mm-hmm. If it felt good, you wouldn't be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It never feels good, but you kind of get used to that feeling. Mm-hmm. And that feeling isn't as scary. Because hey, more likely than not, this is going to end up fine. I may not knock it out of the ballpark, whatever it is that I'm doing right off the bat, but it's not going to be as bad as my mind is probably making it.
Couldn't agree more, Scott. It builds that confidence, and I think it infuses into other areas of your life that you don't even realize, over time. And so it's just one of the best books I read, years ago. Growth Mindset by Dr. Scarrow Dweck. And you either have a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. And from her, there really is no gray. And I always walk away, and again, still to this day, one of my favorite books, and that really helped me a lot of just understanding, you know what, I can grow in this. Even as thorny and slimy and squirrely as I am, I can grow somewhere in this. And that's not easy. Life can be messy. Life can be challenging, 100%. But being able to kind of see, hey, there is some confidence building. There is some growth. So when it comes at me again, I'm just a little bit more ready for that. So it's just kind of a mindset that I've adopted, and really I take it into so many different facets of my life.
Well, and even in our conversations, I may be talking to you about a problem I'm having, or even, quite frankly, just complaining about something, right? Getting it off my chest. And, you listen and you're like, okay, well, so I hear you, Scott. What can we learn from this? Let's look at it from a different lens. All right. Maybe, the other person you're dealing with or you're complaining about, how are they looking at this? Mm-hmm. Where can you be a better person, a better leader, better whatever, and find a way to navigate this, right? Don't just sit here and gripe about it. You can gripe about it, get off your chest, that's fine, but then let's go fix it.
Sure.
Right? Which is one of the things that I absolutely love about having someone like you in my life, is the ability to have that there. And I have another great friend too, Russell Button, who does the same thing with me. And It's a joke between us that if we're having a slow month in terms of signing up new cases, all I got to do is go gripe to him about signing up, not enough cases, and all of a sudden, I start signing up cases again, right? It's the juju of that world. But anyway, so it's super interesting that that all kind of developed from that one interaction with your wife and debate. Tell me this though. Football, college football. Mm-hmm. All right. I had a niece who played volleyball at SMU, and her college life was completely different than mine. One, she's way smarter than me, but she was eaten alive by volleyball. It was anything and everything. So football, I would imagine, especially here in Texas, under Coach Patterson, who is known as a tough coach.
Oh, yeah.
That had to eat up a ton of your time. And how did you power through those days when you weren't feeling great? When it was an August practice outside at 103 degrees and full pads, and everything in your body was like, I can't do this, or I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Man, super solid question, Scott. That one for me, I've got something in my phone, my calendar every single day. It asks me, what's your why? And I've got my list of what Marcus Brock's whys are. And I always think back to when I was adopted. And my parents spoke to my biological parents and said, hey, we'd love to adopt your son and give him a better chance at life. And they said, we would gladly allow you to do that if you can give him a better chance than what is happening here in St. Mark, Haiti, in the slums. And so it sticks with me and it goes with me. And so even when I think about those tough days in college, and I think, what an opportunity. I've got a myriad of buddies I played ball with in high school that didn't get a shot regardless of level, went straight to work after school. So I was one of very few that left Lindale and not only went to college, but played Division I football. So for me, it was just fueled by so many, hey, this is your opportunity, filled by, if this doesn't work out, you're headed back to East Texas. You might work at Tyler Pipe. You have a real opportunity on your hands. And I think even for my friends that were walk-ons or other scholarship players, it's just like, guys, we've got an opportunity a fraction of kids have. So yes, it's tough. Yes, it's hot. But you know what? We signed up for this. And oh, by the way, we're fortunate to have a full academic and athletic scholarship. So the university has deemed themselves going to take care of our academics. So we have a degree, and that's the most important thing that Coach Patterson used to strive and just drive. Like, your parents sent you here to get a degree. I don't care if you go play in the NFL. I don't care if you ever play it down for me. I don't care if you don't play it anywhere else. You're here to get a degree, and you're here to grow as a man. And so those three prongs kind of stuck with me. And, man, that's what made it easier. Definitely wasn't easy. Because there's plenty of challenging days. Plenty of days you wanted to crawl in bed and just be like, man, I'm done. I'm sick of being yelled at. I'm done. But then when you really think back to the core of it, for me, it was like, man, you have an opportunity. And regardless of what God graces you with after this, take advantage of this opportunity and fulfill it to the maximum. And I was blessed to be able to do that, man, with a whole lot of help from a whole lot of people, smarter, stronger than I was, that I was able to lean on. So I think that's what really fueled me through those days and those years, and continue to fuel me today.
And so you have this big why purpose, right? But is that what fuels you through the next 50-yard sprint, or do you break it down even more elemental than that?
Yeah, what fuels me to that next 50-yard sprint is my competitiveness, and I love the endurance run, and I get stronger with the more miles that I can go. And I've always been that way. And so as I remember vividly, it was probably mid-July. The team wasn't doing well. We were in summer workouts. And I think we had run probably 18 to 22 100 sprints with like a 30-second stop break in between. And Coach Summer said, we're going to run until everybody throws up. That's just what it is. And I just was able to keep going, and tired as can be, 100%. but just that endurance allowed me to keep going. And so in that moment, was I thinking about my why and my second chance of life? No, I was thinking like, I have an endurance, and I, as a leader, have the character to keep doing this, to show others, hey, if Brock's doing it, we can do it. You know, even though not as fast, not as strong, doesn't matter. Just like if he's doing it, we can keep doing it, because we're not all dead out here. So let's keep on moving, keep pushing through. But there's plenty of those days, my friend. Plenty of those days.
And had you been elected a captain yet at that point in time, or was this just freshman, sophomore Marcus just taking it on his own shoulders?
Freshman, sophomore Marcus, just taking it on my shoulders. I love leadership. I think I always just had some good leaders in my life, but also just some innate things in myself of just leading by example and just trying to be who you can be. And not everybody has to be a leader. You can lead from the back, the side, the middle. It doesn't matter. But it was just freshman, sophomore Marcus, just I think being myself and trying to lead the best that I could and encourage other people.
And so do you think that that was more of an innate thing in you, or do you think that was something that developed over your growing up in Lindale, playing football, those kinds of things?
Combination of both. I mentioned earlier, just from a sports perspective, being blessed to have decent talent, and so kind of was always looked up to. And then going to a Division I college, now everybody was that person in their town, right? Everyone was looked up to. Everybody looks pretty good and looks the same, but still being able to have humility for people and encourage and try to actually serve others to, hey, we can do this. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm here or there. This is all of us. And so it really innately comes through, but it also just from my upbringing of kind of the platform I was able to stand on. But, man, I hope pull folks along just through the encouragement of kind of who I am and just what I'm about.
And so one of the things that we preach, in fact, we put it on any job ad that we put online, is, hey, you got to have humility here at our law firm. You grew up incredibly talented, obviously. You don't go play Division I football unless you're probably destroying the competition, right? Everybody on the opposite team knows who you are before you ever take the field. And especially in high school, especially in East Texas, so Texas high school football in East Texas, everybody in town knows who Marcus Brock is. At 18 years old, at 17 years old, how do you not let that go to your head? Or did it?
You know what? It's funny because I think back to walking the halls, and Corey and I both talk about just always being the salt and light, in a very complex, kind of broken world, and not even knowing it, just doing that in high school. Like, I was very inclusive of friends that weren't in the in crowds. I don't know why. I think that's just the heart that God gave me, and that is the reason why. And I think humility is it's so important, and it's okay to have confident humility, but I think it's so important because, man, you don't know what the next person's dealing with. They don't know what you're dealing with. You and I, your humility to me on the years that I've had significant challenges and struggles and have been at tears sitting with you in the office or at coffee, and just to have humility over where I am and who I am without judgment, man, I'm blessed to I guess say that I have that, maybe. I don't know. But I think that was always it, Scott. Like I was given a good chance in life, and working at Petty Steak and Catfish, as a waiter, and remember these two twin boys, and they always wanted to sit in my section, and just spending time talking to those guys. And now they're grown and they're married, and I chat with them still. They both live in the Frisco area, and they always say, "Man, you always spend time with us." Like, why? It's like, I don't know.
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't I? So it's just, I don't know. It comes from that, and I'm blessed to just, by no means trying to boast by any means, but I have a heart for other people, and I always have.
So you mentioned one of your favorite books was the Growth Mindset. What do you do to ensure that you're always growing? And what parts of your life do you focus on in terms of growth, and how do you come up with what to focus on?
Yeah, You know, what I do is I keep challenging myself. To get better. As a professional, I'm in sales, so you can have a wonderful year last year, but just like sports, you're just as good as the scoreboard. And at the beginning of the year, it starts at 0.
Right.
So regardless of the accolades from a year past, you got to figure out the way to do it again. And so for me, it's just constantly getting better. And I'm a huge proponent, and you know this, Scott, I want to keep learning. And I'm an avid book reader. I love having conversations with people much smarter than me, like you, like my wife, like my friends. And then how do I actually manage that, or where do I focus? For me, it's taken some time, Scott, in my maturity to understand, hey, what's important, Marcus? What's Marcus responsible for? And if I think about it, for me, it boils down to really 5 things. It's one, as a child of God, my relationship and my faith stands first and supreme. And through that, the kind of the beacon of light through that. I think secondly is I'm a devoted husband to my wife, Corey. And so decisions and goals and things that I make, I'm always keeping Corey in mind. I'm trying my best to be an abiding father to my 2 daughters. I still need grace and patience in there.
Yeah. That's the majority of our conversations revolve around how awful we feel about the fathers that we are right now, right?
But we're there and we're working at that, and that's a continuous growth. And then in my community, how am I leaning into relationships with dear friends like you and other folks that I have the ability to be in a sphere with? And then, of course, at work. And so those really 5, I call them stewardships, are really what I look through the lens of how I structure, where I focus my goals, and really my rhythms as I move through life.
Goals. How do you choose your goals?
Yeah.
How do you kind of set markers along the way? And how do you check in to make sure that you're headed in the right direction?
Great question. How do I choose goals? I choose them through those 5 markers.
Okay.
Professionally, am I being a trustworthy professional? And everything that from a professional perspective, I'm looking at it from that lens. How do I check in? I'm in sales, so it's a quarterly, it's a monthly, it's a biannual, and then an annual goal, and I walk that backwards. And then I've got accountability partners, specifically at work, other peers. Just say, how are we doing? What's not working, and just constantly asking for feedback. And then I think then from a personal perspective, it's the same. It's really calendarizing a lot of what I kind of mentioned, and making sure I'm hitting those milestones. Hey, if Corey and I want to go on a date night once a month, it's on the calendar. I'm scheduling it. I'm holding myself accountable to it. We're doing it. I'm going to find the babysitter. We're doing it quarterly and so forth, and biannually and annually, as well. And even to my more spiritual, my service at church, things of that nature, getting on the calendars and holding myself accountable to it by not saying I can't do it, not saying, even though we did start off as in the front line, which was awesome.
Absolutely.
But we look forward to it. And it was on the calendar every 2 weeks. Scott, you can count on Marcus and Scott being there.
Yep.
And we didn't divvy from that. And from there, we were able to just chat. And even came to a point I remember like it was yesterday, a Saturday to pop up. Hey, are you going to be there tomorrow? I can't make it, this, that, and the other. Man, you're not going to be there. You know what? I might be able to do something. Yep. Okay. I'm going to be there. And we're both there. And so it's just having accountability. Accountability is hard, man. It's tough. And to have somebody, nobody likes the finger on their back.
Right.
But if you have a good sphere of people, or 1, 2, 3, I don't care how many, that are willing to tell you, hey, man, you're messing up. You're dropping the ball. Hey, understand. Let's pivot this direction. And they're there with you, holding you accountable. Man, that's gold.
Well, and I think that's a huge point, Marcus, because you got to have accountability, right? We're all lazy. Every single one of us is lazy to some extent because we don't want to do the things that are hard, that are difficult. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, the last thing I want to do is go out to the garage when it's cold outside in February and I don't have a heater in there and go get under the squat bar, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's huge that you have accountability. But I think it's also huge that you have the right accountability partner.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
I don't hold my wife accountable to anything. She doesn't hold me accountable to anything because all it does is start a fight, right? And And we acknowledge that and we laugh about it. Like, yeah, she's going to go to one of her friends and I'll go to one of my friends. But I think you got to have that relationship of trust to where it can't just be, oh, I'm doing this because I don't want to get ribbed by this guy. It's got to be somebody who understands your why. Like, hey, why are you trying to do this? Because then I think they're going to be the encourager. They're not going to be the person that tears you down and makes you just quit. They're going to be the person who's encouraging you. Like, hey, man, remember why you're doing this. Hey, remember how great you felt when you were doing this, or whatever your goal is. Having that right accountability partner is so huge. So how do you go about finding your accountability partners?
I've been blessed to have, I think I speak about you and I. We've been hanging out, for over 4.5 years. And it just generated from just a casual conversation. We actually started chatting about books. We both love reading books. And I think we exchanged our book list for that year.
Yeah.
And we've done it every year since. And I've added your ton of your books but then checked in on, hey, did you get through that? What are you doing? So forth and so on. I don't go out seeking, hey, you're going to be I don't go seek that.
Sure.
I think through where the stage of life that I'm in, I'm looking at, and don't take this as like, I'm high and mighty and you get the opportunity to be, not at all. I think just the stage I'm in with young children, elementary age, wife works also, busy doing this volunteering. I'm able to mingle with people that are in my same life stage. And just as I get to know people, some I can trust in that regard. Some I can ask for loyalty in that regard. You 100%. Like, we've been rolling around for almost 4.5 years, man, in that space. And it's super cool. So it's not so much that I'm going and seeking, it's more organically grown.
So let's kind of broaden that concept to mentor, both finding a mentor and being a mentor. It's really weird to just go up to ask somebody like, hey, Marcus, would you be my mentor? Right? Like, nobody's going to respond well to that. I mean, they might say, oh, that strokes my ego a little bit. Yeah, I'll be your mentor. And then they never do anything.
Sure.
So to me, it all comes down to relationships, right? And to go with what you were talking about is our relationship just developed naturally, right? We're two very similar people who have similar hobbies, similar points in our lives, and it clicked.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of at a point now where you're moving up the ranks at your business, crushing sales, and you can tell us what you do here in just a minute. I'll let you throw out a little job advertisement there, so you can justify to your bosses why you took off in the middle of the day to come be here. But what would you suggest to people who are either looking for a mentor or who are in the position more where you are now of looking at, hey, you know what, I've gotten to a good spot. I really enjoy teaching people. Who would be a good mentee? How would I find a good mentee? So talk about that for me.
I know even in the workplace, there's a lot of, in today's workforce, you're seeing a lot more of mentor or mentee programs being really created. At our company, we just created this 2 years ago, and so we've had the chance to, do more mentorship, sign up for a mentor, sign up to be a mentee, whatever the case might be. And what I thought was really unique is that hey, here's what interests me, here's where I'm trying to go, and here's where I am today. And they match you with people and things of that nature. I think for somebody where that doesn't exist, for maybe a mentee seeking a mentor, if there is somebody that just inspires you, if there's somebody, I don't know if it's your church, at your job, in your neighborhood, I firmly believe, people love to share insights and best practices of, hey, I've been through some of these ropes. I hear where you are and where you're trying to go. I may not have all the answers, but I'm happy to share a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so I actually see more people wanting and raising their hand to be a mentor for somebody that actually is intentional about it, Scott, and wants to actually find growth. And so for me, it's, hey, if you're on LinkedIn or if you're even just in your small community, if there's somebody that you have a high respect for, they've got good character in your eyes, ask them the question. Hey, here's where I am. Here's some of the things I'm doing. I really don't have a mentor. I'm not asking you to be a mentor, but could we grab coffee a couple of times and just can I hear your story and how you got to where you are? And I've got a couple questions of maybe how I can get to, if it's that level or maybe a different direction. And so I think sometimes just sitting down and asking to hear somebody's story and asking the opportunity of, can we chat? Can I learn from you? I think it's more well received than people probably think it is.
Absolutely. I mean, somebody who has achieved any level of success, they love to help others along, right? Obviously, there's those successful people who are just jerks and don't care and are just trying to climb their own ladder and couldn't care less about the people below them. But the vast majority of people that I've met that are successful love to share with others, advice. Hey, here's what I went through to get here. They love to tell their story. And one thing I would add to what you said is provide value. Like you may think as a young person or as somebody lower down the ladder, you can't provide any value to that person up there. You're wrong.
Agreed.
You're wrong. Treat it like you would any other relationship. Don't go into it with, hey, what can you do for me? Hey, can you get me this raise? Hey, can you get me to this next level here? What can you teach me? Get to it as, hey, this dude is amazing. I really am inspired by them. What can I do to help them? What value can I add for them? Maybe that value is just being curious about where they came from and how they got to where they are, and giving them the ability to teach.
Agreed.
That's valuable.
100%.
And maybe there's other avenues too. I think that goes with every relationship, right? You can't just go into a relationship as to, okay, how can this person help me? It's got to be, hey, what can I add to this person's life?
So it's so true. You and I have had conversations for time and time about just, just providing that value. Coming in with an intention to listen and to learn and also to share and help grow, and just that back and forth. It's so true. I mean, no one likes a relationship where you're always giving. You're always giving. You're always giving. That's fine for, a period of time, but sometimes that tank gets empty, man. And I'm not saying you have to give to me, but I would appreciate some receiving also at the same time.
Because fill my cup a little bit.
And it's not a selfish thing, Scott. It's to have a good relationship. It's two-way. You nailed it. You hit the nail on the head there. So, yeah, providing value, and regardless, you're right. You can provide that value at any level.
All right, so I know this about you because I've known you forever, but you are a workout beast. I mean, every 30 minutes, my watch is going off that you've completed some workout. If you ever want to feel bad about yourself, just go share your Apple Fitness app with Marcus, and your watch will be going off every 30 minutes. So you're obviously a guy who loves routine.
Yeah.
Tell me about your routine. Tell me kind of where you thrive, why you thrive because of routine, and if you ever get out of the routine, kind of what happens to you.
Yeah. So I'm not a workout beast. I'm just trying to keep it with you, brother. That's my main goal.
Yeah, anybody on YouTube right now can see that. Yeah, no, that's not the case.
I do love routine, especially for me. I'm intentional, and you know that about me. If it's meaningful for me, I'm going to be very intentional about it. And my health is meaningful, and so I've got, 2 young children, and, I work out of my home office, travel and so forth, but it allows me to be there and, run to gymnastics, run to dance, run to volleyball. So for me to have my own time, it's early in the morning. So my routine is I'm up, 4:45, 5 o'clock. I'm working out, I do my runs, and I'm back at the house by 6:30, and then just in time to wake the kids up, get everybody going for the day, and I'm done. And now I'm able to step right into my workday, full of energy, able to thrive and really get into that zone. And so I'm pretty rigid about keeping that rhythm, Monday through Saturday. And when I get off, I feel it. The house feels it. My wife feels it. You need to go do something. You need to run or go work out or something. But health's so important. It's the one thing. We got one body. We've got 2 legs, 2 knees, so forth, and my goal is to keep them as healthy as possible for as long as I can. I want to see my girls get married. I want to see grandchildren. Corey and I, we have a whole nother life ahead of us. And I want to be healthy enough to dive into that life. So that's kind of my routine and why I am the way I am in that regard. And I just enjoy it, man. I find joy and I really, really enjoy that. I'm not a nut where I'm in there for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and there's nothing wrong with that by any means. But what I have going, it works for me, and I like the way it makes me feel.
So you do get in time frames where you travel quite a bit. How do you manage to stay on your routine from time zone to time zone?
Yeah.
Early flights, late flights, all those.
It's my discipline. I mean, I'll bring my gym shoes. I'll bring my workout clothes. If I'm gone 3 nights, I'm bringing 3 days of clothes, and I really challenge myself to do it. I'm the guy that won't stay out late with the team and will go to bed at a decent hour because I know I want to wake up and I want to get my workout on. It's something that's good for me, and through doing that, I'm better for the ones that I can serve. If I can't take care of myself, how can I take care of the people around me? And for me, it's taking care and serving my family and my friends, and taking care of myself is really where it starts. So that's how I stick to it.
And so when you get home from one of those 3-day trips, if there's only 2 pairs of gym clothes that have been used and you're having to put the clean ones back in the chest of drawers, is that a failure to Marcus? Is that one of these things that you're going to be upset about?
You know what? In years past, it was. Honestly, it was like, man, you did this, you dropped the ball. But as I've matured and gotten older, I've learned to give myself grace. I've learned to give myself space. Happened for a reason, wasn't feeling good, whatever the case is. So even as rigid as I can be, when there's a bump in the road, I've learned, hey, you know what? Have grace with yourself. It's one thing I constantly preach, and chat with Corey of just, hey, have grace with yourself. It's okay. And we understand where you want to go, what you want to do, but just have some grace. And I speak it aloud to hear it through my own 2 ears. So I've over the years had grace, but I stick to it pretty closely.
Well, and so to that, I jokingly called it a failure that you missed a day. But what about for true failures? Like you go and you just screw up a sale. You don't get the paperwork in and lose a sale, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Big failure.
Mm-hmm.
Not just I missed that day at the gym,
Sure.
but like a real big failure. Walk me through how you deal with that.
You know what? It's taken maturity over time. Early in my career, I'd be really hard on myself. I'd be down for some time. As I've grown and matured in my faith, I believe that the first thing I can do is learn that, hey, you know what? If I control that situation and it's on me, okay, I've got to figure out what I did and why I did that. I didn't manage my time well. I just was lazy and didn't turn it in, or whatever the case might be. I didn't follow up the way I should have followed up. That's on me, and I've got to own and accept that. If it's something out of my control, then I've learned, hey, you only can control what you can control, and maybe I need to manage what I can control earlier in the process to maybe mitigate what happened at the back end. So today, it's really about understanding, hey, what did I control? What did I have control over? And I dropped the ball. Okay, I need to look at why did I do that, Marcus, and kind of lay that out on a table. And if it's out of my control, hey, you know what? It's out of my control. And we did all the things necessary to be in a winning position, and it just doesn't go our way. That's just the way it is and the way it's going to be. So I think for me today, Scott, it's really understanding what I can control, what I have controlled, and if I haven't, I really need to look in the mirror. Coach Patterson, going back quickly, he told us our freshman year coming in, he said, gentlemen, you can fool your mom and dad, you can fool me, you can fool your girlfriend, but at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you can't fool yourself. And it stuck with me. And if a failure does arrive, and I know where it fell, and I can fool everyone else, but at the end of the day, if I look in the mirror and I know I can't fool myself and I know where it sits, I got to own that, man. And I got to be better from that and try to take that as a learning and really moving forward with that. So it's definitely much easier said than done, especially if there's something big.
Sure.
But really trying to grasp control over what I can and really understanding the dynamics of it. It's it's really what's helpful for me, man, because we're constantly in competitive situations for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the important points you made is early on, you let it take you out of the game for a while.
Yeah.
Right. I know. When I was a baby lawyer, and I'd screw something up, it was all I could think about. Mm-hmm. And guess what I got done that day? Nothing.
Yeah.
And so as I've gotten older, obviously we all still make mistakes on stuff. But now it's amazing how maturity affects that mindset of, all right, well, that happened. Let's fix it first. Mm. Let's figure out how did it happen, and then how do we keep it from happening again, and then move on down the road. Mm-hmm. And so, something that may have distracted me for a day, 2 days, a week is now something that is, okay, let's do a quick autopsy on it, figure out what happened, how we fix it. If we can fix it right away, great. Yeah. If it's something that we need to, roundtable and figure out with the whole team, like, hey, how does this get fixed? Then put it on there and we'll get to it at the next meeting.
Agreed.
And man, how much time, I know I've wasted a ton. How much time have you wasted being upset about a mistake instead of actually moving forward with your life in whatever area?
So much, so much. And we can't live life in the rear view. Right?
Absolutely.
We can't live life in the rear view, but we can learn so much from what's behind us, right? And I've wasted a ton of time, Scott. I mean, I'm human, and you wallow in that. And to your point, as you mature and grow older, you get a little bit wiser and understanding, okay, let me actually reflect back on the steps. Because of when you're quick to analyze all the good steps that you took.
That's right.
All the sweet, flowers that you ran through. But on the losses, you want to kind of move around those. But it's really, hey, let me analyze this quickly. And the faster I can get it analyzed to your point and move on, man, the faster I have the opportunity to get better.
Absolutely.
And I think that's in so many things of life. Because it's hard. It's hard we easily can hang on to stuff. But there's so much grace for us, more than probably we even think that we need or we have. And there's a lot of grace for us. So it's been a good journey for me. But it's a lot easier to accept some of those hard times, failures or mishaps, whatever they might be.
All right, man. Well, let's bring it to a close with a few final questions here. You already mentioned growth mindset, but give me a couple more of your favorite books, business books.
Yeah, a couple others. Not so much business, but more life application. Sure. The 12 Rules of Life by Jordan B. Peterson. Really solid book, cool book. Really enjoyed that read.
He's gotten really popular recently.
You know what? He's been around for a long time.
I know.
One that I just recently read, probably, I don't know, a year or so ago, was called Think Again.
Adam Grant.
By Adam Grant, mm-hmm. which is really solid. And just what I loved out of that is just when we talk about failures and mistakes and setbacks, we're always talking about our best practices and, what we can do this better and we can do that better. We rarely think about what can we stop doing? Like, what can I stop doing to get better? Not just leaning on the things that I'm really doing well and trying to sharpen that tool, but what can I actually stop physically doing on a day-to-day basis to help me grow and project forward? And it really just kind of stuck with me. I'm like, what can I stop doing? Maybe I can stop surfing social media while I'm sitting on that conference call. Which I think everyone.
Marcus, what do you think about that? I'm sorry, what?
and so that was really that was solid, as well. And then you know what? I think another one that I read, and it's not business; it's more life application, if you will, by John Lewis, called "Carry On." Really, really good book, powerful book that I read. But those are a couple that I really, really enjoyed. You and I talked about the 10x rule, which it's intense. If you're ready to turn the knob up, jump into that one too.
Marcus long ago hit the 10x button. Now I think you're up to about 50x. Is that right? Is that the goal plan right now?
I'm just trying to keep up with you, brother.
All right, you're a podcast guy, right? You like listening to podcasts. What are you listening to?
You know what? You.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and and it's funny. My brother's been always telling me, he's like, man, you got to listen to Joe Rogan. You got to listen. He always has cool people on, interesting people. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, I'll dive into it. And so I checked it out a little bit. One is an app that has a myriad of podcasts. It's called Optimize, and
You turned me on to that.
I turned you onto that, and it's got just a plethora of podcasts and different pieces in there. So I'm either diving into those, but I do more books. I'm reading more books than I do podcasts, just especially with Audible and traveling and so forth. It keeps the brain ticking.
It's amazing. I can't tell you the last time I listened to a radio station. Typically, I'll listen to maybe like jazz or something like that if I'm coming home after an intense day and I know I got to go put on Dad Scott hat as soon as I pull in the driveway and I'm all amped up.
Yeah.
It's funny because Sarah does not like Work Scott.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey, why doesn't Work Scott go take a walk around the neighborhood and come back and we'll see Dad Scott.
It's real, man. It's real.
It is. So one last thing, how do you decompress before changing those hats at the end of the day?
Oh man, that's a great question. Especially since working out of home, for so many years, and it's challenging sometimes. But I think something that I echo to my better half, and we chat about all the time, is when I'm done, I'm done. Like when the clock hits 5, I'm done. We're not at our company. We're not heart surgeons. We're not curing cancer. So when I need to be done, I'm really done. I try really hard not to work into the weekend. Sometimes it happens. I get it. Just being a professional but I cut the cord. I pull the plug, shut the office doors, and I try not to go back in there. And it still takes me some time, right, to get in.
Sure.
Especially if the girls they're wired up and running around, and like especially summertime, things like that. But I just try to stay on my routine of when I'm done, I'm done. And I shut the doors, let it go. I'll tackle it tomorrow. I already have my to-do list for tomorrow already laid out, so I'm ready to attack it when I get in the morning. But just trying to be intentional of being done. Like, now it's time for Dad. And, I'm human. It works a lot of the time. And a lot of time, I'm not anywhere there. I'm thinking about the things that I need to tackle or the challenges I had for that day or, quotas that I got to roll out. And but that's just an action that I try to take to help me, a little bit there.
Yeah, I try to do the same, and occasionally I'll be staring off into the distance, and I'll kind of come back to, and I'll see Sarah staring at me with just kind of this look. I'm like, oh, did it again.
Thinking about you, love. Thinking about you. Yeah, thinking about you.
All right. Marcus, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for your friendship, and thank you for coming out and being on the Driven Crowd podcast today.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
You bet.